Jorge Mario Bergoglio, better known as Pope Francis, chosen as the sovereign leader of the Catholic Church by Benedict XVI, the first non-European Pope in over 1,000 years of history, the first Jesuit Pope and the first Latin American. He took the office with the aim of reforming the Church to adapt it to the modern age. Through his policies, the Church could build closer ties with the East, accepting religious pluralism as a path to God, no matter what religion you profess. During his mandate, he was characterized by his progressive and socialist ideas, always paying attention to the most disadvantaged people, reclaiming that world leaders take action to care of them, along with his support for LGBTQ movements. These characteristics are what will lead him to become a pope who will certainly be criticized and controversial. Actions such as their peaceful approach to Eastern religions will ultimately shape the reputation of the Vatican, or their support for progressive minorities, which will end up irritating the most conservative ones. There has been much criticism of Pope Francis' policy, which some have described as cynical and cold, particularly regarding the 2018 treaty with China, the terms of which remain undisclosed. A treaty that seeks to remove the Chinese party's power to appoint bishops to talk about organ trafficking. And you may be wondering what this has to do with the Vatican. Well, it turns out that the Chinese government is accused of taking organs from its political prisoners, basically using jails as harvesters, reaching the point of treating a religion practice as heresy, from which the case with Falun Gong in 1999. But maybe you can figure it out why this is specific cult. Numerous visits were made by Pope Francis to East in search of coexistence and peace among different religions. This is how Francis approached Islam, through friendly encounters and dialogue, arguing that religious extremism is a significant obstacle to peace and cooperation among the different religious institutions, which turn on the other cheek while such religions continue to despise Christianity and all who contradict their belief. We intend to treat with condescension those who propose a war with no quarter in order to spread their ideas. Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. If we continue to listen to the various speeches given by the Pope, we will observe his strong support for social justice, LGBTQ minorities, and his criticism of anti-immigration policies. Pope Francis was widely critical of the capitalist model, claiming it generates inequalities by creating discarded people, a system where groups are systematically excluded or marginalized, and which is attributed with the responsibility for environmental destruction. And if the latter is true, we only need to look at the population of trees and forests before and after the Industrial Revolution. What many of these people want to ignore is that before all these globalist policies, these problems were going progressively smaller. Typical statements and cliches that this criticism addresses in a superficial and biased manner, including speeches that frame external debt as a means of control, hindering the development of the poorest countries, and benefits only the financial institutions that exploit their resources. Additionally, it suggests allocating part of military spending to a common fund to combat poverty and supporting the most impoverished countries. Phrases like money corrupts morals and dehumanizes human beings further clarify the Pope's position. At the same time, he proposed a new international financial architecture as a multinational mechanism based on solidarity and harmony between peoples. His support for same-gender couples who receive the priestly blessing, his commitment to globalist ideals, such as the rejection of accumulation of wealth, opposing the exclusion of immigrants, and his focus on climate change, have led to Pope Francis being labeled as a progressive and at times a globalist. Likewise, his approach to global politics through his frequent visits and dialogues with dictators, as well as his friendly approaches to religions that only yearn for the destruction of their enemies. It's clear that Pope Francis' actions were not exemplary in the political sphere, given the way he engaged with global politics. At the end of the day, another human being sitting in the chair that leads an institution as significant as the Vatican, the highest authority in our religion professed by more than a quarter of the world, with a significant influence not only over its religious followers, but also in global politics. It's not for nothing that it's the country with the most embassies in the world. Now that Pope Francis has departed from this material plane, and the Vatican having already chosen its new Pope, now it's time to wait and see what happens with the future of the Vatican. Will it continue its progressive stance or revert to conservatism?
Going up, the greeting, the waving.